All right, we got lots to talk about today, guys.
Big topics.
Big news. Huge news. Huge.
So hard not to do the Trump impression. I walked in and was like, wow, you guys are going to talk about big stuff. We love it. We love the big stuff. Go ahead, Dr. Rob.
All right.
Kick us off.
All right. First of all, we need to do some just updates, catching up since last week. So you didn't die. You traveled. You did all your mountain man stuff, and you didn't die. So that's great.
I did.
We are talking about big things today. So we have been getting so many comments, so many people reaching out on our social media that say the same thing over and over and over again. Yes. And we're kind of, I don't know if tired of it is the way to put it, but more just like, hey, we want to address this.
So. Let's talk about it. We all got issues, all right? As Dr. Phil says, we all got issues. Let's talk about it. Right?
Yeah. So the thing I'm going to lead off with this talk is I think that we could go on and on with this, and what I'm probably going to do is we are going to give ourselves 15-20 minutes on Instagram to say the least controversial stuff about it, and then if you want to know more of the actual controversial things that we're going to be talking about, that'll be on school. So today's topic is on the dispelling the concept that autism is genetic. So we get this comment over and over and over again for all of the posts that we make, all of the ads that we run of us talking about how we're helping kids with autism. And when we talk about what we believe the contributors or causes to autism, or we just talk about the concept of autism, so many people will get on and keyboard warrior themselves into saying, oh yeah, it's just genetic. It's just genetic. I was born with it. My kids were born with it. My parents have it. And it has nothing to do with anything that you're talking about. It has nothing to do with injuries. It has nothing to do with development. It is completely genetic. And then they get very aggressive and very combative.
They get crazy.
Yeah.
They get crazy. You don't have to tiptoe around it. You want to be controversial. Let's be controversial. Some people get crazy.
Yeah, they get pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of mean.
Very mean.
Yeah.
Dr. Rob goes home and cries at night.
All right. Well, so there's a couple things we have to hit. So I want to say that there's layers to this. So the first thing is this: we just talk about the concept of labels and diagnosis first of all, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're going to talk about this, and obviously our claim is that autism is not simply just genetic, but let's define some terms, right? So we are not big fans of placing labels on kids. So even if we have a child who's been diagnosed with autism, my job isn't to affirm that or remove that. My job is just to look at the child and see how best can we help them. So we're not a fan of labels, we're not a fan of diagnoses. But if we were to actually take autism as a thing, it is rather definable. What is autism? When it comes to all the array of different neurological, neurodevelopmental challenges and symptoms, they have presentations, and then with enough of a conglomeration of these presentations, you can put a label on it, and it could be, obsessive defiance disorder, anxiety, ADHD, autism. They all have the ability to do that. So if we were to say, okay, what is autism? Autism has a definition, and it is, from a neurodevelopmental definition, it is a diminished or weakened right side of the brain. And that's it, in comparison to the left side, right? Now, can be more complex than that, where there's some diminishings on both sides and da-da-da? Yes, that's true, because a lot of times, like we know, autism is a spectrum, meaning there is a variety in what it looks like. However, the things that will define autism would be things that you could pinpoint to the right side of the brain. If the right side of the brain is responsible for social interactions, big picture thinking, large muscle control, the ability for you to determine tone of voice, emotional regulation, all of these things are living in the right side of the brain. And if you were to take a child who's been diagnosed with autism, those things you can see are not working as properly. Right. And social cues is definitely, altered, worse, whatever you want to say. The idea that basically there's social distancing, if you want to post 2020 that has been
COVID, throwing it back. Throwing it back.
Anyway, the reason why I'm not just like right here on you all day long, like I would desperately want to be, is because
your wife's right over there, bro. Say.
The reason is that I understand that there is like a social distance that's regular, right?
Right.
When you're having conversations with people, you look them in the eye.
Right.
When you're, having a conversation, you have a certain distance, you're angling your body in a particular way that has like the social cue that you understand what's going on. Right. All of that stuff is right side of the brain. And you notice the kids with autism really struggle with those things. So if you just like list these things off, you can be like, okay, this characteristic is what autism is. So first of all, when we have people that are commenting on our stuff that they say, well, I'm autistic and I'm autistic and I know that what you're saying is a bunch of lies, is all genetic and da 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 da. Well, first of all, the fact that you have the ability to have a Facebook profile and be able to sit on your computer and type these things out and have the cognitive ability to be able to rationalize an argument, well, you definitely don't fall very heavily onto the autistic spectrum at the very minimum. You might have where the left side of the brain of your left side of the brain is slightly like bigger or stronger or more developed than your right side, and so you'll have like maybe you're obsessive about certain things. You like things that are very neat and organized, and you're particular about the small details as opposed to the big picture thinking. Like we said, is right side, so left side would be small details. Like you'd see those things about you, and if you want to call yourself autistic in that sense, sure, I guess. I personally just don't think that's very wise. I think if you're just like picking certain things about imbalances and from one side of your brain to the other that are fine and minute, I don't think it's a healthy thing for you to give yourself that label. So all that like kind of big, starting this off, I don't want to say that like we're big proponents of these labels and diagnoses, but I do want to give a definition on what these things are. So the next thing I think we need to define is, well, what is genetic? Because people throw that word around a lot.
Yes,
say, well,
with everything.
Yeah, so anything that they don't understand, they're like, well, it must be genetic, right? That's typically how healthcare works. Well, how most people think of genetic is they think of chromosomes and they think of like eye color and hair color.
Right.
And they'll say, okay, well, if my parents had it and it skipped a generation and then it happened to the next one, well, then it was heterogeneous or homogeneous or whatever, one of those things where it was like halfway genetic but not all the way or whatever they say. Fine, that's cool. But genetics really kind of has like three different components to it with regards to how people are describing it. So one would be is like you just find similarities in your heredity. Like family has like my dad had arthritis, my mother had arthritis, my brother has arthritis, and I have arthritis. Well, if you look and then everybody is like living a life that would end up creating arthritis, and it just happens to be that everybody in that family lived that same life. Maybe it's that, maybe it's genetic. I don't know. But what you're noticing isn't chromosomes. You're noticing a familiarity in your heredity. That's what basically you're seeing. Yeah. Okay, so that's one. The other thing is there's a concept called epigenetics, right? So epigenetics would be that if you look at an actual gene, and then that gene, when presented with a stimulus or an alteration in its environment, nutritionally, physically, chemically, whatever, that gene can present itself differently. So epi would be, epigenetics is referring to like the thing like above the genetics, right? And so then that would be passed on epigenetically to the next person. And one of the greatest examples of this that I have read would be like, I think they did this experiment on, there was these like pigs, and they gave this mother pig regular food, and then obviously the pig had piglets, and the piglets were perfectly fine. And then they removed vitamin A completely from the mother pig. And then the next batch of piglets that it had were pigs that were born without eyeballs, meaning that vitamin A was a contributor to like vision and ocular development. And so like we know that regular gene mutations don't happen that fast. Like it's not from like one letter to the next. It takes several generations for gene mutations to happen. So what would happen in that case was that the whole genome change would be the epigenetics of that situation changed. And then the last one would be like a direct genetic expression, which just is like trisomy 21. We're talking like Down syndrome and other chromosomal
cystic fibrosis.
Like cystic fibrosis, stuff like that. Things like hair color and eye color and whatnot. These are things that you can directly connect to, a gene, so to say. So like, they would be like, well, these nucleotides equal this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when people say autism is genetic, most of the time what they're thinking is that third one. They're thinking that it is this, it's in the gene, like they can calculate it. Like when these particular nucleotides and DNA and RNA mix together, it's going to produce this. It's going to produce this case of autism. Well, we refute that, and I think there's a couple of reasons why we can support our evidence for that. So let's go into that. And by the way, like I said, I think that this talk can go very long.
He's got the list. He can scroll on that list for a long time. He's done his homework.
I did my list, and I did it in a way where whatever. I was gonna say things about, maybe we'll save that for school. So for anybody who's watching that doesn't know about our school, let me just give you, at the end of this, you're going to be clicking a link. You can join the school for the rest of the conversation here and all of our other conversations that we've had that are all so much fun. We wore tinfoil hats one time.
We did.
You should watch it.
That was pretty cool.
All right.
Manuela loved that. Our social media person, she hated that. She was
like, we can't use any of this.
She was very upset. But I was very proud. W's in the chat from Manu. Everybody drop W. All right. Come on.
Back on track. Okay.
Come on.
So here's an argument that people will throw out all the time.
What is it?
The argument is that we're just better at diagnosing autism nowadays, right?
Aren't we? This is such a classic line. We've just got better tools now. We can diagnose it better. That's why we're seeing this pop up.
That's why the prevalence or the amount has increased, is simply because we're better at diagnosing it. Okay, well, here's a couple just questions to answer, and I'm going to go from least scientific to most scientific.
I like that. I like that.
Least scientific.
Okay.
If that was the case, then why aren't there just a ton of autistic elderly people walking around right now? Because if it was the exact same amount and we just were bad at diagnosing it 50 years ago, well then today, all the people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, there would be just as much of a prevalence in them as there would be in the kids today.
Correct.
Clearly not the case, right? Very clearly not the case. Well, then somebody can be like, oh, well, maybe they died early and that's why they're not here. Okay, whatever. That's an argument.
Yeah.
Here's another one. I think this might be the least scientific one, but it's my favorite one. It is, you ever watch the movie Rain Man? Okay, so...
Yeah, this is definitely the least scientific one.
But it's so good. It's good. Listen up. You guys ever watched the movie Rain Man? Okay.
I was with you. Here's the evidence. Ever seen the movie Rain Man? All right, you might. I'm gonna see if you can weave this back in.
You're like, it's definitely genetic.
I'm changing sides.
All right, no, listen. All right. The movie Rain Man was literally about a guy who was autistic.
Okay.
And
this was not a documentary, right?
No. It's
I'm just making sure
completely fictional movie.
I'm just making sure it wasn't a documentary.
Tom Cruise, right? Tom Cruise. Is that the guy?
No.
Well,
yeah, it was.
Tom Cruise it was not the autistic guy, but his brother.
He's the brother.
Autistic.
He's the brother.
I don't know the actor, the brother. But whatever. The point was is that the movie Rain Man was a novel movie. Meaning, no one had really seen a guy like this that could do math on the top of his head and can be able to count cards quickly and be able to they drop toothpicks and make down to 52 toothpicks. All this analytical mathematical genius thing that you see and very poor social skills. It was a whole movie made about it because it was novel.
Right.
We see that every day now. They wouldn't make a movie about that.
That's true.
That's my argument.
All right.
Definitely wasn't as prevalent back then. Now that's the least scientific. Let's move on to a more scientific.
Yes.
All right. This is the third least scientific, and then we'll get into scientific.
Oh my gosh. All right.
So, if you have your parents and my parents and our grandparents, if you ask them, did you guys see any kids in your classroom
Yes.
who had autism?
I've asked my mom this before.
And very few. I mean, if
Yeah.
it was like a very rare circumstance
Right.
to be able to run into one.
Correct.
Now we have schools that they have whole sections of the school that are built particularly just for these types of kids because there's so many of them.
Correct.
Right? That's dramatic difference in just like 1 or 2 generations.
Correct.
And that to me is a sign that this is clearly increased in prevalence, not simply that we're diagnosing it better.
Correct.
All right, so let's get into actual numbers and stats and science. Cool.
Love
Is
it.
that all right with you?
Love it. Love it. Show me this
I know you
facts.
like the Rain Man one the most.
I
but-
did.
All right. Okay, so here's some stats. So the prevalence, as of the most recent, the prevalence of how prevalent autism is today is 1 in 31. So 1 in 31 kids are diagnosed with autism. If you're in California, 1 in 12 boys are diagnosed with autism,
Yep.
which is crazy. 1 in 12 in California
Yep.
for the boys. In 1960, the prevalence was 1 in 10,000.
Yeah.
Now, here's somebody going to be like, whoa, wait. Back in 1960, they were diagnosing autism only if they were like severe.
Right.
It was like nonverbal, basically disabled, unable to interact in the public, right? Whereas now, an autism diagnosis will be given for a lot less of a severe,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fair. So then if you look at today, or the most recent stats that we found in 2023, nonverbal disabled autism today, it's 1 in 217.
Wow.
Back then, 1 in 10,000 from 1960. So that's 66 years ago. That's a 46x increase, 46-time
Insane.
increase.
That's insane.
So if you put $10,000 into the S&P 500 and you got a 46-time increase, that's insane. That's like Nancy Pelosi numbers, right?
That is Nancy Pelosi numbers.
Definitely.
W's in the chat for Nancy Pelosi. Follow her stocks. Somehow, I don't know how she does it, but she always
She's so good at it.
She nails it.
She's so
She
good
nails
at
it.
it. I don't know. She should be doing that.
How
instead of
much
comedy.
money is she worth? And then what's her salary? Like $200,000. I don't know. How does that work?
Can we get a camera on our office manager
Our
right
office
now?
manager is sweating behind the scenes. She knows that we're gonna get shut down by Instagram and probably
All of a sudden, Wi-Fi goes
yeah
off.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's a
a lot.
Nancy Pelosi return
a lot.
right there.
That's a lot.
That tells us. That tells us that clearly something's wrong, right?
Right.
So, all right. So here's the question, though. Okay, well, how does if we're going to go off of the fact that it's genetic, let's look at other officially genetic diseases and see what was the prevalence increase
Yeah.
from 1960 to today.
Yep.
Autism was a 46x increase. But what about Down syndrome? Trisomy 21. 1.33x.
Wow.
Type 1 diabetes, 2.5x. And then cystic fibrosis was exactly the same.
Wow.
So those are 3 pretty well-known genetic disorders. If autism is just a well-known genetic disorder, why is it 46 times more prevalent today in the official, like, nonverbal severe case? If you're talking not even that, like the 1 in 31, I don't even know what that number is, way more, right?
Correct.
So crazy, right? So
insane.
that's
insane.
obviously something more than just, even if we just give it that it's even partially genetic, there's more to the story.
Correct.
Dramatically more to the story. So if you're in a situation where you're looking at your family and you're like, okay, like the comments that we see all the time, it's like my parents, myself, whatever, like you see the connection there. The question would be not just it's genetic, deal with it, move on, right? It's like, well, what contributed to the situation? Like, why is it so prevalent? Like, what else happened in the family tree or in the environment, or what else was presented to you in your family that led to the increase so dramatically, right?
Correct.
So, and the reason I preface this is like, look, I could be completely wrong, but the position to hold of it's just simply genetic is hopeless. Like there is no hope in that.
Incredibly hopeless.
So like the
just give up.
opposite position that we're holding is filled with hope. It's like, okay, yeah, it may be partially genetic, whatever, we'll give it to you. But clearly we're gonna bank on a lot of effort of this being highly influenced due to environment, lifestyle, things that we can control.
Yeah.
And so if we can put our hope in that and then put our efforts there, we believe we can make impacts. And the reason we believe, we see it all the time. Like literally here, every single day, we see improvements in these kids that have been diagnosed with level 3 autism and whatnot. Like it's so obvious to us, but like within these 4 walls is unique, right? We have such a unique opportunity to witness these things. So anyway, that is about as much as I would like to put on normal social media.
Well, that's perfect because I think we only have a couple minutes left. So why don't you tell them about our school community where we go crazy.
All right.
You thought this was crazy.
Bring the tinfoil hat back.
Buckle up. Buckle up.
Okay, so I think that if you are a parent or you run a household and you want to make your house as health promoting as possible, that was the heart behind creating our school community regulated kids. Our goal is to be able to have you view your 4 walls as the place that provides the most healing for your family, not just the 4 walls of a clinic.
Yep.
So when you are at home, we want to give you as many resources as possible to help you with that. So inside of our school community is everything that we would do if we were in your shoes to help produce the healthiest home possible. So if you're interested in that, just click the link, join our group. There is a free version, which even in the free version, there's stuff in there that's helpful. Yeah. Like there's resources that you can use. There's a whole home audit that you can run to figure out where the weaknesses are, things that you can improve. But if you were to do the premium version, you pay for the group $29 a month. There's a ton of value in there. There's a whole at-home 12-week program that you do step by step. There's a ton of modules, resources, and you get access to all of these calls. We're going to continue our conversation over there. Get at more than what our social media overlords would allow us to talk about.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Also, all of our previous talks will be recorded, and you can find them there too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Hope to see you in there. So click the link. See you there. Or